نجاة الأمة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تلك أمة قد خلت لها ما كسبت ولكم ما كسبتم ولا تسألون عما كانوا يعملون. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When we look at the mission of Imam al-Husain alayhi salam, we notice that between us and Abu Abdullah is 1400 years. Between us and the land of Karbala is many miles. Emotionally at the moment, we might be distant from the event of Muharram. Typically, on the 6th night, on the 7th night, or even for some, up until the 10th night, the feels start to kick in. The emotions towards Abu Abdullah al-Husain alayhi salam start to take control of our eyes and start to conquer our hearts and start to penetrate our minds. That when you come and you look at this event known as Muharram, it might be close to us on a very superficial level. In difficulties, we'll say, Ya Husain. In moments of doubt, in moments of lowliness, we'll call upon the master of martyrs. We'll call upon the grandson of Rasulullah. We'll call upon Imam al-Husain alayhi salam. And indeed, that's why he's there. Abu Abdullah is there to be called upon to. Abu Abdullah is there so that in moments of difficulty you can call upon him. And no doubt, as many speakers say in their majalis, before they begin a majlis, they say, مَا خَابَ مَنْ تَمَسَّكَ بِكُمْ. Indeed, the one who holds on to you won't lose. There's no failing when it comes to serving Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Failure knows nothing of Husain and of those who serve him. The man was slaughtered, yet he still won. This is the greatest testimony that anything and anyone that has anything, an iota, one who serves tea, one who comes and sits in a majlis for 2 minutes and goes back and studies for his med school exam, that's enough to be a victorious human being when it comes towards Abu Abdullah. There's no failing when it comes to the Imam. However, this is a very superficial understanding of our Imam. Why? Because there's a distance between us and our Imam. There's an emotional distance, as I said. There's a physical distance, as I said. There's a mental distance, as I said. There's an academic distance. There's a historical distance. There's a geographical distance. Distance between us and Abu Abdullah is on every single level. You cannot escape the distance between you and the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And that's why we seek to understand what is the bridge between us and Imam al-Husain. What is that connector between us and Abu Abdullah? There has to be something that's going to get me closer to the man. There has to be something that's going to tell me, you living in Chicago, you living in the West, you living multiple miles away from Karbala, what is it that's going to connect me to Imam al-Husain alayhi salam? There has to be something that connects us and Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Therefore, you find distance is bound to take place between us and the grandson of Rasulullah. However, what you notice is that there are bridges. Despair not. There are means. There are connectors. There are bridges between us and Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. No doubt there are. But the understanding and the difficulty is to find those bridges. Unfortunately, what you seem to find is that many people, they limit the bridge between us and Imam al-Husain alayhi salam to an emotional bridge. That's it. You'll find he'll come and he'll cry. Now, Is emotions one of the bridges between us and the Imam? There's no discussion about this. There's no shadow of doubt when it comes to this understanding and to this notion that yes, there are emotional bridges. For goodness sake, this was one of the greatest bridges that our 12th Imam took on board. When he says, "Oh Aba Abdullah," in his ziyarah, if destiny separated from you, yes, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that I'm not with you on the 10th of Muharram, that's not going to stop me. Why? Because I have emotions. That's when the Imam makes the famous line. He says, if that is the case, if I'm far from you, if I'm distant from you, لأبكين عليك صباحا ومساء. Yes, لأندبنك صباحا ومساء ولأبكين عليك بدل الدموع دما. Huh? He says, if that is the case, oh Aba Abdullah, that's not going to stop me. It's not going to hinder my progress. Nothing is going to impede me. What does he say? He says, if that is the case, I'm going to cry upon you day and night. And besides normal tears, I'm going to shed tears of blood, which is scientifically proven. I'm going to shed upon you tears of blood. Well, now, what's the Imam saying? The 12th Imam here is making a fundamental notion. He's saying that indeed, if destiny separated from you, if that physical distance exists, then emotions are going to connect me to you. You're going to tell me Zainab alayhi salam, you're not going to cry about what happened to her on the 10th of Muharram? You tell me Qasim, this beautiful youth like you see attending here today. You see that this young youth by the name of Qasim, who had an academic future ahead of him, who had a marital future ahead of him, who had an existential future ahead of him, who had a future ahead of him, let alone everything that a future entails. He had days ahead of him. A youth, 14, 12 years old. Huh? You're telling me you're not going to cry upon such a youth who was innocently and barbarically struck on the head while he was fixing his blessed footwear? Huh? You're not going to cry about such a tragedy? You're not going to cry about a 6-month-old baby that had a 3-pronged arrow. That's Harmal ibn Kahil, la'natullahi alayh. He himself, he says, I saw him take out his hands from his blanket and flap them like the way a butchered bird does. You're not going to cry about such an incident? Anyone who doesn't cry about such an incident is to be questioned. His spirituality is to be questioned. His sense of rationale should be questioned. His tenderness of heart should be questioned. You can't doubt any of that. So therefore you have to cry. Because the Imam alayhi salam comes and says, he who sheds the size of the wing of a fly, yeah, then his sins are forgiven. What does this tear entail? I promise you it entails much more than a chemical combination. I promise you. Take the tear of Husain and compare it with a tear that one can shed about his brother when he dies. Or one can shed about an exam when he fails, yeah? Or one can shed about a car when he loses it. Compare. There's no comparison, I promise you. And I'll put money on it, that on a chemical level, there's no comparison with such a tear. Therefore, tears they're bound to take place, and they must take place. If they don't take place, I'm telling you, question yourself. If the minute a reciter says, Sallallahu alayka ya Rasulallah, Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, and you don't feel something happening to your heart, I'm telling you, question yourself, brothers and sisters. Question yourself in a constructive matter, not in a matter there's something wrong with me, what have I done, I'm a complete fail up to this point in my existence. No, in a constructive way, tell yourself, why is it my heart feeling that palpitation when I hear the name of that man who had his neck severed on the 10th of Muharram? I question myself and I have to question myself. Therefore, on an emotional level, you notice that the Imam alayhi salam kept it. Are there other means between me and my Imam? There are. But we want to understand a question throughout these 10 nights, brothers and sisters. We want to understand the topic question which shall set the pace for these 10 nights to come. Which is, what is the relationship between Husain ibn Ali and today? What is the relationship between Imam al-Husain alayhi salam and what's happening in the West today? What's happening in the East today? What's happening in Myanmar today? Huh? The Rohingyas who are being killed on the daily. The Shia who are being butchered in Bahrain, in Saudi, in Qatif, in Ahsa. Butchered, killed, beheaded, whipped. Why? Because he has love for Ali ibn Abi Talib. This kind of a tragedy, you're not going to question yourself? Allahu Akbar. Ilallah al-mushtaka. Ya Allah. What are you going to do about that? If you claim to love Husain, but you're not posting every day on your Facebook about what's happening in Myanmar, and this fool of a lady who's getting Nobel Peace Prizes for killing people, and she's honored, and she's valued and revered, Allahu Akbar. If you love Husain and you're not raising awareness about Myanmar, I'm telling you, take it from me, Yawm al-Qiyamah, tell me, Ya Allah, he said it. You have to question your Islam, you have to question your Iman, you have to question your Husainiyat. You have to. I don't know how you sleep. I don't know how you do it. Let me know, because I need a few tricks, maybe that I'm missing. But if you're not scared about what's happening in Myanmar, go and look at the videos. If you have Ayatollah Khamenei and his greatness and his reverence speaking about such issues, yes? If you're not worried about what's happening in Palestine, if you're not worried about what's happening in Pakistan, if you don't care about what's happening, wallah, I have a test to study for. Don't let me say to hell with you in your test. Don't let me say that. But if you don't care about such things, if you don't care about such things, and you still attend the majlis of Aba Abdullah, question what you're doing in life, brothers and sisters. Question it. What is this idea of hadith ma'an nafs? What is this idea of questioning yourself? Which our imams come and tell us, do it every day. Every day? You tell him, oh Imam, what do you mean every day I should question myself? What kind of a pathetic life is this? I'll lose it. I'll go crazy. I'll go suicidal on myself. What do you mean? No, question yourself. Question it. Why? Because there cannot be a disconnect. The question which I will seek to answer throughout these 10 nights is the following. What is the relationship between Husain and today? What's the relationship? Where is Husain today? If your answer is he's in Karbala, wrong. Try again. If your answer is he's where? He's in the sands of Karbala, buried in that great and that heck of a mausoleum in the sands of Karbala, then I tell you, try again. You don't have much time. The test is limited, but try again. Give it another try. Don't quit. Try again. What do you notice there? You notice that indeed there's a gap. There's an unbelievable gap between Husain ibn Ali and between what we do today. Oh, there's a great gap, I'm telling you. There's a great gap, 100%. That's why throughout these nights I want to understand. I want to understand this question. What is the relationship between us and between Husain today? Don't come and tell me that I'm crying for the Imam. Don't come and tell me that I'm doing my job by attending majlis of the Imam. Don't come and tell me today that, wallah, I donated a few bucks for the majlis so it can keep going and I've done my job to serve the Imam. No, that's not enough. Therefore, we have to understand this question. Why? Because we claim to love Husain. It's that simple. We claim to love Husain. We have to have an answer to this question. If somebody says, why? You tell him, because you claim to love the Imam. And I think that the way you act has much to do with your claim to love someone. How many people do you say, and it's for that reason that divorce rates in the States are 50%. He says something, he does another. Therefore, we have to understand this question. And today, in the time that we have, we want to understand it in a number of ways. Firstly, what are the 3 levels which will set the pace for this series? There's 3 dimensions which we'll seek to understand the Imam through. Secondly, for example, we want to see what is the greatest of links between us and our Imam. Emotions is one. You have physical ziyarah, another. We'll mention a few today. Yet what is the most powerful of links between us and our Imam that we can seek to indeed embark upon to have a relationship with our Imam, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi today? Also, we want to answer this question, is Imam al-Husayn's message remanifestable? What do I mean? Is it possible to repackage the message of our Imam? Or shall we just keep it as it was 1400 years ago and take it as that ancient antique his piece of historical existence, that historical reality, and take it into 2007, take it into 2008 without repackaging it? Is there a room for repackaging and indeed remanifesting the message of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam? Also, for example, number 4 tonight, let's see how indeed it is remanifestable. And also on a 5th level, possibly we can look at in the time that we have today. Yes? What does this have to do with our 12th Imam? And how does this just increase the pressure upon us as human beings? In today's era, and in today's climate, and in today's milieu, in our responsibility and in our indeed duty, in meeting the responsibility that we have in this idea of Husain existing today. What do we have to do with Husain today? And I think if we could look at it and indeed approach this topic in this intrinsic level and to see it in that apparatus, then maybe we can do some justice throughout these 10 nights to this topic of Husain and the 21st century. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Number 1, you find that indeed there are 3 levels which we want to understand this topic through. And give me your attention tonight. If you're not going to pay attention tomorrow or on any other night, just give me your attention tonight so that on the 7th night, you don't ask, where is he going? What is he doing? What's going on? Where am I? Am I deaf? No. Just maybe today, if we stick with the plan and if we understand where I'm trying to take things, it'll be much easier to understand things later on, insha'Allah ta'ala. On 3 levels, we want to understand the Imam. Number 1, on a personal level. Number 2, on a global level. And number 3, on a theological level. I'm arguing that you cannot understand Imam al-Husayn alayhi salam and his role in today's existence if you don't see him through these 3 lenses. Number 1, on a personal level, and to take these 3 notions and apply them to what Imam Husayn did 1400 years ago, 61 AH in the sands of Karbala. On a personal level, you'll notice that the Imam alayhi salam, when he indeed was giving us his mission statement of what he's going to do when he goes to Karbala, he came with the famous lines, which you all have memorized. He says, إني لم أخرج أشرا ولا بطرا ولا مفسدا ولا ظالما ولكني خرجت طلبا للإصلاح في أمة جدي رسول الله أريد أن أأمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر. Dissect the statement of the Imam, and you'll realize that indeed there are 2 of these dimensions which I spoke of within the statement of the Imam. Look at what the Imam says. He says, indeed, I have not come to seek indeed authority or power or for no reason or fame or attention. I have come to seek reformation in the nation of my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. I want to indeed enjoin that which is good and forbid that which is evil, and to follow the path of my grandfather Rasulullah and my father Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. Number 1, on a very simple level, you find that indeed there is this personal direction which the Imam is taking. That I am indeed doing what I'm doing, not for any of the reasons which I mentioned, but simply because I want to do amr bil ma'rufi wa nahi anil munkar. I want to enjoy good and forbid evil. On a very basic level, this is the first manifestation that we see of Karbala. Amr bil ma'ruf, nahi anil munkar. I see a piece of garbage before me. Will I pick it up? That's my Karbala. I see somebody cheating. Am I going to tell upon him? Am I going to help him? Or am I going to let it go? That's my Karbala. For example, I see somebody stealing. Will I let it go? That's my Karbala. Amr bil ma'rufi wa nahi anil munkar. Number 1, on a personal level. You find on a global level, then the Imam came and said, then why are you coming, ya Imam? طلبا للإصلاح في أمتي جدي رسول الله أريد أن أأمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر. طلبا للإصلاح. I have come to seek reformation. You tell him, ya Imam, reformation has nothing to do with you on an individualistic level. Huh? Reformation has nothing to do with you. You're not going to gain anything from this reformation. If anything, Ya Aba Abdullah, you're going to lose. Your child will be killed. Your brother's son will be slaughtered. Your sisters will be taken as captives. Ya Aba Abdullah, the chance of losing is so much greater than the chance. But no, on a global level, and oh my goodness, oh my days, how much we can learn from this global perspective of the Imam. Why? How many people, and believe you me, they cannot see a few inches past their nose. Do you agree? Some people come tell him, what's the important things in life? He comes in, he tells you, my school, my family. Very good. Do you know what ways Ibn Ziyad was able to change the followers of Muslim ibn Aqil? Indeed, through this. You know, there were many people praying behind Muslim ibn Aqil. Many people were praying behind Muslim ibn Aqil. Many people were praying behind Muslim ibn Aqil the minute he entered Kufa. He enters Kufa, he's praying his salah. Allahu Akbar. He turns around after Maghrib, he sees there's only a few people left. He says, no worries, I have trust in Allah. Yeah? He prayed his Isha. He turns around, he sees there's no more people. A few people were left with him until there was no one left. They left him alone, just like Aba Abdullah ended up being all alone on the 10th of Muharram. Muslim ibn Aqil, do you know how they were able to slowly recruit people away from him? They would come to them. They would tell him, excuse me, why are you fighting with this Muslim? You have nothing to do with him. You have absolutely nothing to do with him. Go worry about your children. Habibi, go worry about your school. Go worry about your future. You have nothing to do with the guy. And slowly, slowly it worked. People, and we'll come in the future nights to see the tricks of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan and the disease that Imam al-Hasan, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, faced. What Muawiyah would do to recruit people away from him. You know, Imam al-Hasan could have been Sayyid al-Shuhada. Imam al-Hasan could have been the vanguard of a Karbala. Imam al-Hasan could have been the pioneer of such a tragedy that took place on the 10th of Muharram, led by Imam al-Husain. Imam al-Hasan could have prevented what happened to Abu Abdullah. We'll see, but Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, he was able to do a few tricks, yeah? He was able to. So what do you see here? You notice that, number one, you notice that, number two, that global perspective. Global perspective in what sense? Global perspective that I'm not only worried about what's the few inches ahead of my nose. No, I'm going to worry about that person sitting next to me. I'm going to worry about that child losing his parents and having no food in Myanmar, in Pakistan, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Sudan. No, I care about it. I'm going to have some sense of altruism. I'm going to have an iota of selflessness in my heart. I'm going to do something about it. Why? Because that global perspective. And if anyone doubts why Imam al-Husain alayhi salam left Hajj, if anyone went to Hajj this year, you know, when you're doing tawaf, I don't think what's on your mind is that I'm going to leave this Kaaba. Now I'm going to go, there's a McDonald's, I believe, next to the Kaaba. There's a KFC next to the Kaaba. Alhamdulillah, Mecca is becoming a tourist area. And in case you're worried about what's going on in Facebook, don't worry about it. There's also Wi-Fi in the Haram. It's called Haram Wi-Fi. I think the password is something like Saudi 123. Anyways, what you come and you notice is that Imam al-Husain alayhi salam, yeah, did he finish his Hajj? Did he finish his Hajj? Imam al-Husain alayhi salam didn't finish his Hajj. He didn't finish his Hajj. He left his Hajj incomplete. Tell me, where in fiqh is this acceptable? Where in jurisprudence is this okay? Imam al-Husain, salawatullah wa salamuhu alayhi, left his Hajj incomplete. What's the Imam saying? He's saying what Shari'ati said. He said, if Husain was to stay circumambulating around this Kaaba, while Muslims are being threatened, while the state of Islam and Muslims is threatened worldwide, then there's no difference between going around the Kaaba and between going around the Green Palace of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. There's no difference. He finished his Hajj incomplete, brothers and sisters. My God! What a statement that the Imam is making. Wow! He finished his Hajj incomplete. He left it unfinished. I tell him, Ya Aba Abdullah, what are you trying to say? What is the statement you're trying to make? He's saying there's no point of me going around this Kaaba. To heck with this Hajj if there's a state of Muslims which needs the help of Aba Abdullah salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. There's no point of this Hajj. Therefore, on that personal level, you found he would come and he would say, Amr bil ma'ruf, anhi anil munkar. On a global level, yes, he would leave his Hajj. He would speak of this notion of Islah. And then on a theological level, we'll speak of each of these levels later on. But to give you the understanding today, on a theological level, what is the relationship between Imam al-Husayn and God? And most importantly, is it meant that Husayn is leading me to God? Or has it been the whole time we've mixed it all up and Allah has been trying to get you to realize Husayn ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib? You come to today, many people, you tell him, Husayn, what's his job? He takes me to God. أنتم الأبواب إلى الله وابتغوا إليه الوسيلة. Yes, السلام عليك يا باب الله. Peace be upon you, O door of Allah. Peace be upon you, O means to Allah. Husayn takes me to Allah. Or have we misunderstood the statement? It's been Allah day in, day out trying to get me to realize the greatness of Husayn ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, which in result, which will get you back to Allah. It's a circular relationship. But who's been trying to lead me to who? When I come and I read this dua, Arafah, I don't know about you, but unfortunately I forget who's being spoken to and I'm focusing on the one speaking. I say, if there is anyone who has the eloquence like Aba Abdullah, the sincerity of Aba Abdullah, the humility of Aba Abdullah, despite his greatness, despite his awesomeness, despite his excellence, then there must be a God. I don't care what he's talking about. A man who can say such words to me is the greatest proof of Allah's existence, regardless of what he's saying. Who's leading me to who? Is Husayn leading me to Allah? Or is Allah trying to get me to realize Aba Abdullah? On a theological level, what do I mean? When you come to Karbala, brothers and sisters, believe you me, what has the Imam been trying to say besides anything but Allah? Constantly, 24/7, you see him saying things like رِضًا بِقَضَائِهِ تَسْلِيمًا لِأَمْرِهِ. Yes. How many times has he been saying, I submit to you, Ya Allah. Yes. Allahumma in kana hadha yurdika fazidni minhu. Oh Allah, I'm putting it all for you on the table. I'm losing my family members. I don't care. 6-month-old gets pierced in the neck. I don't care. Not only that, I don't even want his blood. I don't even want his blood. I'm going to give it back to you. I don't need this blood. 6th Imam says none of that blood came back down. You ask yourself why? Allah is saying, I'm accepting what you're giving to me. Yeah, I'm accepting it. رضا بقضائه إلهي تركت الخلق طرا في هواك وأيتمت العيال لكي أراك فلو قطعتني بالحب إربا لما مال الفؤاد إلى سواك. In the last moments of the life of Imam al-Husayn, it is said that Shimr, he would come closer to his body. He sees him saying a few words. Do you know what Shimr said? He said, I was indeed, I was distracted. I was distracted. I was distracted by the light coming from the face of Aba Abdullah. And I forgot about why I was even going to his body. They see the lips of the Imam mumbling words. He's speaking to Allah. He's speaking to God. He's telling him, my Lord, I've left my family to come and see you. I've orphaned my children to come and see you. If they were to cut me into pieces, my heart would lean towards no one other than you. This is what, brothers and sisters? This is when we speak of tawakkul. وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا. This is what we see from the Imam. We see on a theological level, there was the greatest of relationships between the Imam and between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These 3 levels, I beg of you, don't forget them. What are they? The personal level, the global level, and the theological level. You'll understand the importance of these 3 dimensions in the upcoming nights if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. Therefore, on those 3 dimensions, number 1. Therefore, what is the greatest link between us and the Imam? Why should we speak of these 3 levels? There are many different levels of relationships and bridges between us and the Imam. There is, for example, the emotional level, which I mentioned to you. And he who sheds a tear of the indeed wing of a fly, and then he has nothing to do with sins, and he is far away from Jahannam. You find stuff like that. Emotional, yes, Imams come and say, he who cries upon the Imam, he's far away from Jannah. Then you have the logical level. Logical relationship. It's a logic. You and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, and you understand Karbala through your mind. You understand Karbala through your brain. You come and you approach it as an academic event which took place and you study it logically. Is this mentioned in our narrations? They are very much mentioned. You notice that indeed our sixth Imam, he comes and he says, "Man zara jaddi al-Husain arifan bihaqqih." He who visits my grandfather Husain, knowing his value. Knowing his value means what? Knowing his value means understanding the importance of this man I'm coming to. Otherwise, if I approach him emotionally, then it's just like I'm crying upon a Titanic, or I'm crying upon a Braveheart, or I'm crying upon any movie which can exist out there. Because emotionally, I have the same tears falling for this man as they were falling for Hector, as they were falling for example, any other great legend which we watch in our films. There's no difference. No, that's when logic comes to the rescue. That's when rationale comes to save the day. And the idea that you study it, and no. It's much more than just the emotional. Imam, that's why he comes and he says, عَارِفًا بِحَقِّهِ. Yes or no? He who comes, indeed, studying it and knowing the value of this Imam, that's a number 2. Then you have the physical. We're able to go to Karbala. We're encouraged to go to Karbala. Karbala is, as we're told, is equivalent to 1,000 Hajj. Yes? Ziyarah is unbelievably recommended. Visiting Abu Abdullah is on the top of the list of a mu'min. Yes? That's why our 11th Imam comes in and says the 5 signs of a believer. For example, at-ta'affur bil-jabeen, muddling your forehead on this muhr or this turba, on this piece of clay, not only placing your head upon it, but muddling your head upon it. That's why you see many mu'mins today, you see the sign of sujood on his forehead. سِيمَاهُمْ فِي وُجُوهِهِمْ مِنْ أَثَرِ السُّجُود. As Allah comes and says, the signs of sujood are clear on their forehead. Or for example, another sign is what? وَالْجَهْرُ بِبِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. Saying Bismillah loudly in namaz, in salah. Also one of the signs of the mu'min, as our 11th Imam comes and puts it. Or for example, as-salah bil-wahid wal-khamseen, praying 51 rak'ahs every day. If you were to do the math, you include all of the mustahabbat, all of the nafilas, you connect them together, you'll see it can come up to 51. Amongst them, the Imam comes and says, including Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, saying Bismillah and the power of this Bismillah. Then you come and you also notice what? You notice that ziyarat arba'in, one of the signs of a mu'min. Ziyarat arba'in can be on a means of paper, reciting the ziyarah, or going to Karbala and visiting the Imam on the 40th, building a relationship with this Imam, walking on foot from Najaf to Karbala, an unbelievably important, yes, aspect of one's iman. Therefore, on the physical level, it exists. Yet, what is the greatest of ways which we can indeed build a relationship with the Imam? What is the greatest bridge? I argue that the greatest bridge between us and our Imam is none other than the moral link. There's no greater connection. The link of morality. You may say, what do you mean the link of morality? Come to the Holy Quran. When the Holy Prophet of Islam, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, sallallahu alayhi, this moral link. When you look at Ibrahim, can you guys give me your attention in the back? I don't know, is there another program? When you come in, you look at this connection between our Imam. The Holy Prophet of Islam makes an unbelievable statement within the Quran. He says, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهِ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهِ. If you love Allah, then follow me, Allah will love you. What is the Prophet saying? He's saying that there's no greater connection between us and the Prophet than ittiba', fattabi'uni. This is what the Prophet says. If you love Allah, then follow me. Allah will love you. Ittiba' means what? Ittiba' means obedience. You cannot say, I love the Prophet, and then you're exhuming the bodies of the companions of the Prophet. Just things don't connect. There's a fuse in the system. It has to be fixed ASAP. Otherwise, your Islam is to be questioned. You cannot say, I love the Prophet, but you're attacking the dome of who? Of indeed the cousin, of the daughter of the cousin of the Prophet. There's a disconnect there. When you say ittiba', when you say following, what do we mean there? It means that you got to know what you're doing. Ittiba' means you got to follow the rules by heart, by tongue, and by action. You find many people, he has the heart. He tells you, I love the Prophet, it's in my heart. You tell him, Habibi, that's great. Then, how about namaz? No, it's in my heart. This guy, you put him in the museum. Put him in the museum. Don't let him move. Just put him there, close the window, and just stare at him and say, Subhanallah, amma yasifun. Yes? Just say amazing. It's in my heart. You're not, how about hijab? No. What do you mean? Hijab is inside. Can you? What do you mean it's in your heart? He comes and she tells you, it's in my heart. Allahu Akbar. It's in my chest. Is that the case? Yeah. So you know better than Fatima. You know better than Fatima. What do you mean I know better than Fatima? She didn't do this heart thing. You're doing this heart thing. She tells you, what do you mean this heart thing? No, this heart hijab. You have this heart hijab. The hijab is there? How does it look? What color is it? Did you choose the Gucci or the Versace hijab today? Which hijab did you choose today? Or maybe there's a new Nike hijab that I know nothing of. Huh? Which hijab? Show me. No, it's in my heart. Many people, he has this heart. And I'm not making fun of anyone who doesn't have a hijab out there. I tell her, keep that heart hijab and die with it, but add to it. Yeah? Unfortunately, many speakers, many maulanas, he plays into the insecurity of the audience without playing into the needs and the answers which this audience is looking for. I say play into the insecurity if that's going to lead them to answering their needs. However, if you're just sitting there and toying and playing and as if it's some indeed puppet that you're messing around with, no. Allah is going to ask you on Yawm al-Qiyamah, you played with the insecurities, you spoke of Adab al-Qabr, you spoke of Jahannam, but you didn't answer the needs, then there's problems there. So that heart, I tell her, keep it and defend it and be brave and be feisty with it. Keep it and strengthen it day by day, night by night. However you want to strengthen it, but choose the Versace, not the Nike. Yeah? In other words, what do you see? You notice that indeed there is a vision which is there to be looked at. If you're going to keep this heart hijab, that's not enough. You have another group which is also, I put them on my head and you can also put them in your museum as well. They have this tongue. She'll speak as if she's Martin Luther King. He'll speak as if he's Malcolm X. Tongue hijab. Or tongue iman. Wallah, when he speaks, he'll put you and the greatest of orator to shame. He'll defend. He'll indeed stomp you. He'll shut you down because he has this tongue iman. Husain? Abbas? You're going to come and question my love towards Husain? Are you kidding me? Yeah, that's true. I club. Yeah, that's true. I drink. Yeah, that's true. I play. Yeah, that's true. I'm a womanizer. But you're going to question my love for Husain? You're going to question my love for Abbas? Al-Najjar? I do matam for him? You're going to question my love for him? This kind of a person, what do you call him? You call him the oral iman. The oral. Islam came and said, no. You have the other flip as well, but don't get me wrong. You have those who do amal. They do ittiba', but they lack the heart. And I will argue that this is even more dangerous than the flip side. This kind of a group, I saw them in Hajj. This kind of a group, you see them many different places. Physically, Allahu Akbar. He has Quran memorized. His tajweed is better than anyone. I don't think I'm going to Hajj anymore, but what can I do much about it? You come and you notice what? He has this physical iman. He has it, it's there. Praying. You see him, you tell yourself, this is a mu'min. He must be a mu'min. Islam came and said there's 3 levels. Keep the heart. Keep the tongue. Keep the body. But all of them have to be there. That's when you can say, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. That's when you can make such a statement that Ibrahim came and said, that indeed my salah, my actions, my life and my death, that one fourth Imam, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, was in the palace of Yazid ibn Muawiyah. They would say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. He said, Shahida bidhalika azmi wa lahmi wa jasadi wa aqli wa lisani. Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam came and said, when he heard Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, when he said there is no God but Allah, he said, by that and for that witnesses my tongue, my hair, my body, my heart. Wow. That's a true Muslim. That's a muwahhid. What do you say when you believe in Tawheed? We don't have much time. Therefore, what do you notice? You notice that, brothers and sisters, believe you me, there is this connection which we have to take on board, which is the moral connection. إِنَّ أَوَّلَ النَّاسِ بِإِبْرَاهِيمَ لَلَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُ. Quran comes and says the closest of people to Ibrahim are those who follow him. Follow him. Go and look in the Quran. You had people who had no biological relationship and they were so close. And then you had people, his son, Allah would tell him, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ. He's not of your family members. Wow. What is the point to be taken there? That indeed, this relationship that Allah comes and says, the closest people to Ibrahim, the closest people to Rasulullah, the closest people to Aba Abdullah are those who have ittiba'. This moral link is the greatest link between us and Sayyid al-Shuhada. And I'll argue this, brothers and sisters, with anyone. You cannot, you just cannot keep away from this moral link between us and the Imam. Moral link. That's what connects us to Aba Abdullah. That's what penetrates emotion. That's what penetrates physical distance. That's what penetrates historical distance. Yes, any distance between us and the Imam. That's what cuts indeed this long path. That moral link. Number 3 is indeed, is the Imam remanifestable? The mission of the Imam. Is it okay to make such a statement that I'm seeking to repackage the mission of Aba Abdullah? I say yes. Why? Because living in the 21st century, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us many things which didn't exist in the past. You may say, what do you mean? When you look in the past, they didn't have the social media, which will come when we look at future topics. When you look at, for example, other things which took place, yeah? You look at for cars, weaponry, arms, financial abilities. These things didn't exist in the time of the Imam. What am I meant to do? What am I meant to do? What can I do? What else can I do? And so when you come and you look at these kinds of things, you tell yourself, okay, we have things today which didn't exist in the time of the Imam. What else can I do with these things? When you speak of a remanifesting, people say, astaghfirullah, a'udhu billah, brother, just speak of history. People told me this kind of stuff. Just speak of history. Don't speak of this idea of remanifesting, of repackaging. This is dangerous. Why are you going to get in such a danger zone at such an early level? Why would you do such a thing? No, this idea of remanifesting is very simple. You see people, they did certain things today, yes? They did certain things today which allude to this remanifesting and to this idea of repackaging. When you want to repackage, what do you mean repackage? Repackage not the content. Repackage the way of presentation. Yeah. When I speak to the Christian, I'm not going to come and give him matam. I'm not going to come and give him marthia. I'm going to come and connect Husain to Jesus. That's a repackaging. When I come and speak to the atheist of Husain, I'm not going to come and speak to him of Zainab upon the chest of Husain. He might cry, but that tear isn't going to do much to me. What are you going to do? Okay, yeah, great. He cried and he died and he sat on the chest. Boo-hoo. That's great. It's not going to do much. When you speak of a remanifesting, of a repackaging, can we do it? I think you can. The Quran encourages it. Yes? Come to them with all of your strength. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, min ribat al-khayl. Yes? Turhibuna bihi aduwallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes and says, come towards the enemy with everything that you have. Today we have things which didn't exist in the past. Therefore, I gotta come to Allah. I gotta come to the enemy with these kind of things. Do you see where I'm coming from? Therefore, is this idea of repackaging a reality? It is a reality. 100% it's a reality. Not only is it a reality, it's a must. In today's day and age, we have to get creators. I'm calling out to the doctors. I'm calling out to the engineers, calling out to the lawyers, calling out to the writers, to the journalists. Your talents, if it's not connected to Aba Abdullah, then question the whole purpose of getting these talents and these degrees and these names and these letters before your name. Therefore, remanifestation, is it possible? No, it's a must. How is it possible? In today's climate, in today's cultural, in today's political, in today's geographical climate. Look at what's happening in the world and simply do an application process. Take the Husaini saga, apply it to what's happening today, and I'll tell you, if it doesn't apply to everything in the world today, come back to me and you get your money back. You get your money back. Why? Because it must be a reality. Because Karbala had everything. Karbala had everything. Before we end, everything is only good? No. Everything is also bad. Karbala was a meeting point of peak of good and peak of bad. Yeah? You had everything there in Karbala. You had the greatest of the great. Antum ashabi afdalu ashab. He tells them, you my companions are the greatest of companions. On the flip side, you had people who instituted evil. One was evil born. Evil was born on the 10th of Muharram. فَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً أَسَّسَتْ أَسَاسَ الظُّلْمِ. We say in our ziyarah, may Allah curse a nation who established the foundation of evil. Meaning what? Meaning that's the foundation of evil. It started in Karbala. Everything's there. Why did Allah do that? Just make it this nice, dandly, bubbly event of all goodness and of all contemplation and of all everybody singing kumbaya, sitting together. Why don't you just keep it at that? No, it was a meeting point of haqq and batil. And that is why when you come and you look at the cruciality, yes, or indeed the importance and the imperative nature of this reality, which is what? 124,000 prophets, 11 imams, there's one more piece. The bridge between those two sides is you sitting right here. You know that. You are the bridge to the 12th imam. Everyone is waiting for 12th imam, but 12th imam is waiting for you. Allahu Akbar. Everyone is waiting for 12th imam, but imam is waiting for you. You can't give up. When you're studying, you can't fail because I have prophets counting on me. When I'm working, there's no room for failure because prophets are depending on me. They're all waiting for me. I'm the connection for that imam. Allahu Akbar. Therefore, for Husain to exist today has nothing to do with Husain. Please remember these words. For Husain to exist today has nothing to do with Husain. You may say, what does it have to do with? It has to do with you. The existence of Aba Abdullah al-Husain alayhi salam today has nothing to do with Husain. It has everything to do with you. Whether Husain continues to live today is up to you. It's not up to him. He did his job 1400 years ago. His life and his death was in the hands of Allah. Yet today, the life and death of Husain is in your hands. And that is why, when you come to Karbala, you see it is on this day where that moon started bringing down the tears of Zainab, salamullahi alayha. Zainab alayha salam, of, for example, Imam al-Rida, of, for example, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. You know that there was this great tragedy where everything that would happen to our imams, they would constantly connect it back to the musibah of Aba Abdullah alayhi salam. We are told that indeed our sixth imam was sitting down. He says that indeed my father, he says Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam, once Muharram would come by, he would never be seen smiling. He would never be seen laughing. They would tell him, "Oh Imam, why aren't you ever smiling? Why aren't you ever indeed laughing when it comes to this notion of Muharram?" He said, "How can I laugh when it is these nights which indeed brought the martyrdom of my grandfather Aba Abdullah al-Husain alayhi salam." And that is why It is on this night that we see Imam al-Sadiq would set that barrier between the females and the males in his house today. The females of Muhammad would sit on one side, mourning and crying, remembering the musibah of Zainab, salamullahi alayha. And you had Imam al-Sadiq, salamullahi alayha, on the flip side, also remembering when the poet by the name of Al-Himyari would walk in. Imam al-Sadiq tells him, "Oh Himyari, you're known for your poetry. Would you ever recite for us some lines of poetry in regards to Abu Abdullah?" He would say, no doubt. He would recite these famous lines of poetry to where he would say, "Amrur ala jasad al-Husain, yes, وَقُلْ لِأَعْظُمِهِ الزَّكِيَّةِ يَا أَعْظُمًا لَا زِلْتِ مِنْ." He would tell him, "I pass by the body of Husain and I see those pieces of bones which have been crushed." He says, "I cry upon those bones, I mourn those bones, because they were the purest of bones and they were the most excellent of limbs." Indeed, it is said that at this point, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam would cry, the women would cry, the screams and the shouts of the women would hit a peak, to when Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam would tell him, "Oh Himyari, stop your poetry." He would tell him, "Why, Ibn Rasulillah, did I say anything wrong?" He said, "No, by God. However, I fear that the women would lose their lives." It is said that Himyari would stop his poetry at that point. And then you have Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. You notice every musibah, they would connect it to the musibah of Abu Abdullah. And that's why I tell you, if you have any musibah, then connect it to the musibah of Imam al-Husain alayhi salam. That's why the line in Arabic says, "كل المصائب تهون عند ذكر مصيبة الحسين." All of the problems become minimal and nothing at the remembrance of the musibah of Abu Abdullah. I say, how can any mu'min show sadness towards anything that happens in their lives? You see people staying in their houses depressed because of things that happen in their lives. People who can't leave, people who can't regain their happiness, people who can't recover from events in life. For years you see them crying. I tell him, how could you cry when Abu Abdullah was smiling in the face of his musibah? Imam al-Husain alayhi salam, the enemies would indeed not understand his composure in the 10th of Muharram. However, what do you see? You notice that it's said that Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, yes, Imam al-Sadiq, they see him in his house. Mansur would command that the house of our sixth Imam is burnt. They place the wood, they place the fire, they place all of the problems around the house of our Imam until they come out from the house screaming, crying. They come to him, they tell him, "Ya ibn Rasulillah, antum ahlu bayt an-nubuwah, al-mawtu lakum aada wa karamatukum min Allah shagada." He tells him, "Oh Imam, you are Muhammad. Death for you is a norm. Martyrdom for you is dignity. Why do you cry?" The man tells him, "You are Muhammad. You're used to having the doors burnt. You're used to having the doors knocked down. Peace be upon you, Ya Fatima." He tells him, "Oh my Imam, why do you cry?" He told him, "I cry not because of what happened to us. We're used to death. Dignity is found in our martyrdom." He told him, "Then why do you cry?" He said, when I saw the ladies running from room to room, I remembered my own Zainab when she was running from tent to tent screaming, "Wa Aliyah wa Muhammada, la ilaha illallah." Raise your hands. إلهي نسألك وندعوك اقضي حوائجنا يا الله استجب دعاءنا انصر الإسلام والمسلمين واخذل الكفر والمنافقين عجل لوليك الفرج. And to answer our du'as and to hasten the appearance of our Imam and to bless us and to strengthen us and to make us capable of doing justice to the message of Abu Abdullah al-Husain to our maximum ability. We recite Surah Al-Fatiha with a salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Ya Husain, Husain.
Ya Husain. آواز تو دے اکبر ہے، 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 آواز تو دے اکبر، کری الجواں کی لاش پر کہتا رہا رو کر پدر، آواز تو دے اکبر ہے، آواز تو دے اکبر ہے، آواز تو دے اکبر، گرتا ہوا اٹھتا ہوا آ تو گیا ہوں میں مگر غم ہو گیا نور نظر، آواز تو دے اکبر ہے، آواز تو دے اکبر ہے، آواز تو دے اکبر، تو نوجواں ہے اکبر اور ہے ضعیف بابا، تو نوجواں ہے اکبر اور ہے ضعیف بابا، کیسے اٹھاؤں میت مجھ کو تو بتا دے، اتنا جانا ہے اب خیام تک کیسے کروں میں یہ سفر، کم ہو گئی میری کمر، آواز تو دے ہے، آواز تو دے اکبر ہے، آواز تو دے اکبر، تیری صدا کو سن کر وہ پھر سے جی اٹھے گی، تیری صدا کو سن کر وہ پھر سے جی اٹھے گی، شیر تیری ورنہ شاید نہیں جی پائے گی، سینے کی برچھی تام کے صغرا کوس کے نام سے ایک بار ہمت جوڑ کر، آواز تو دے اکبر ہے، آواز تو دے اکبر ہے، آواز تو دے اکبر، صغرا کے نام ور کو خط کا جواب کیا دوں، صغرا کے نام ور کو کا جواب کیا دوں، وہ منتظر ہے اس کو برچھی کا حال سنا دو، رستے سے اب نظریں ہٹا مارا گیا بھائی تیرا، کیا بھیج دوں اس کو خبر، آواز تو دے اکبر ہے، آواز تو دے ہے، آواز تو دے اکبر، برچھی سے بس کلیجا تیرا نہیں چدا ہے، برچھی سے بس کلیجا تیرا نہیں چدا ہے، مقتل میں فاطمہ نے دل اپنا تھام لیا ہے، بھائی حسن نانا نبی بابا علی دادی تیری موجود ہے سب بھی در، آواز تو دے اکبر اے آواز تو دے اکبر اے آواز تو دے اکبر،
یا حسین، یا حسین پر محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، خصوصا سيدي ومولاي أبا الفضل العباس قمر بني هاشم، وعلى أختك الحوراء زينب بطلة كربلاء. السلام عليك وعلى ابنتك سكين ورقية، وعلى أصحابك حبيب بن مظاهر ومسلم بن أوسجة وبرير وجميع وعابس بن أبي شبيب الشاكري جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا زين العابدين، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر، السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق، السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم، السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا، السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الجواد، السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد الهادي، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي العسكري، السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل مخرجك، وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليكم جميعا يا أهل بيت النبوة وموضع الرسالة ومختلف الملائكة ورحمة الله وبركاته. صلوات.
Please take a note. English Majlis start at 7:50 p.m. sharp every day till 9th of Muharram. Please take a note of it. Thank you.